Before we dive into this absolutely mind-blowing story of how humanity went from galactic outcasts to rulers of the stars, I need you to do something for me. Hit that like button right now, and I mean right now, because what you're about to witness will completely change how you think about human potential. And drop a comment telling me what you think humanity's secret weapon really is. Trust me, by the end of this story, you'll understand why the entire galaxy learned to fear and respect the species they once called useless. The Galactic Council. Chamber hung in the void like a crystalline jewel, its transparent walls offering a breathtaking view of the Nexus. Pulsar, a neutron star whose rhythmic emissions had been converted into the most stable energy source in the known galaxy. Within its soaring halls, representatives from 47 different species gathered for what would become the most consequential meeting in galactic history. High Arbiter Veltar of the Zephyrian Collective materialized at the central podium, his energy-based form shimmering with the accumulated wisdom of 3 millennia. Around him, the tiered seats stretched upward in perfect geometric precision, each level designed to accommodate the vastly different physiologies of the galaxy's dominant civilizations. Esteemed colleagues, Veltar's voice resonated through harmonic frequencies that translated simultaneously into 47 different languages. We convene today to address a matter of galactic efficiency that can no longer be ignored. In the highest tier, General Vex of the Krull Empire clicked his mandibles impatiently. His species had conquered 17 star systems in the past decade alone, and discussions of efficiency typically meant opportunities for expansion. The Krail were insectoid perfection, 6-limbed warriors with chitinous armor that could withstand plasma fire, compound eyes that tracked movement across multiple spectrums, and a military doctrine refined over 10,000 years of conquest. Below them, the ethereal collective's representative existed as a shimmering cloud of interconnected consciousness. The ethereals had transcended individual thought centuries ago, operating as a perfect hive mind where every decision was the product of millions of synchronized intellects. Their psychic abilities allowed them to communicate across vast distances, instantaneously, and process information at speeds that made supercomputers seem sluggish. The Silicon Dynasty's delegate was a geometric masterpiece of living metal and quantum processors. Unlike organic species, the Silicon beings had achieved true immortality through technological transcendence, their consciousness transferable between bodies designed for specific tasks. They had optimized every aspect of their existence, eliminating waste, inefficiency, and the chaotic unpredictability of biological life. In the aquatic section, Coordinator Thresh of the Vorthan Federation floated within a specialized environmental suit filled with methane-rich fluid. The Vorthans had mastered resource management on a galactic scale, their homeworld serving as the central hub for trade routes that spanned 3 galactic arms. Their tentacled forms could manipulate dozens of tools simultaneously, and their distributed nervous systems allowed them to multitask in ways that other species found incomprehensible. The subject of our deliberation, Veltar continued, activating a holographic display that showed the Orion arm of the galaxy, concerns the species known as humans and their continued occupation of valuable stellar real estate. A collective murmur rippled through the chamber, some species chittering, others harmonizing, a few pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that served as their equivalent of laughter. Dr. Kixenal, the Zephyrian Collective's premier xenobiologist, materialized beside Veltar. Her form was more structured than the High Arbiter's, shaped by millennia of scientific study and empirical observation. After extensive analysis, Dr. Kixenal began. I have compiled a comprehensive assessment of human capabilities, and the results are concerning from an efficiency standpoint. The holographic display shifted to show a 3-dimensional model of a human male, rotating slowly as various biological systems were highlighted in different colors. Humans possess no natural defensive capabilities, Doctor. Kixenel explained, gesturing as claws, armor plating, and venom sacs appeared in ghostly overlay, then disappeared. No claws, no natural armor, no venom, no enhanced senses. Their physical strength is laughably weak compared to species like Vikrel. Their lifespans embarrassingly short at a mere 80 standard years. General Dex leaned forward, his mandibles clicking with what passed for amusement among his species. They have achieved faster than light travel, but barely. Their technology is crude, inefficient. We could conquer their entire space with a single battle group. Indeed, the Silicon Dynasty representative interjected, its voice a perfectly modulated synthetic tone. Our analysis indicates that human computational power is limited to a single, non-networked biological processor per individual. Cannot share consciousness, cannot transfer knowledge directly, cannot operate in perfect synchronization. They are, by definition, inefficient. The ethereal collective's cloud pulsed with what might have been concern. When they spoke, it was with the voice of millions. More troubling is their emotional decision-making process. They prioritize illogical concepts like individual freedom and personal expression over optimal outcomes. They cannot achieve the unity of purpose necessary for true galactic citizenship. Coordinator Thresh of the Vorthan Federation gestured with 3 tentacles simultaneously, creating a complex pattern that activated additional holographic displays. From a resource management perspective, humans are catastrophically wasteful. They maintain over 200 separate governmental entities on their homeworld alone, each with conflicting objectives and redundant administrative structures. They could reduce their organizational overhead by 97% through simple consolidation. Dr. Kixenel nodded, her energy form brightening with conviction. Which brings us to our recommendation. The 43 star systems currently occupied by human settlements could be more efficiently utilized by species with demonstrated galactic value. We propose relocating the human population to designated primitive sectors where they can develop under proper supervision without impeding galactic progress. And if they refuse? General Dex inquired, though his tone suggested he rather hoped they would. Then we implement standard compliance protocols, Veltar replied smoothly. For the good of galactic civilization, inefficiency cannot be tolerated. The debate that followed was largely ceremonial. Species after species rose to enumerate human failings, their inability to photosynthesize, their need for multiple types of nutrition, their susceptibility to disease, their chaotic social structures, their wasteful approach to problem solving. None of them noticed the small observation chamber tucked into an alcove near the chamber's lower level, where Captain Elena Rodriguez sat with her small human delegation, listening to every word through the chamber's translation system. Elena was 43 years old, a veteran of Earth's space program and humanity's first official ambassador to the Galactic Council. She had spent months preparing for this moment, studying alien cultures, learning diplomatic protocols, rehearsing humanity's case for full galactic membership. She had expected challenges, perhaps some skepticism about humanity's relatively recent achievement of FTL travel. She had not expected to be dismissed as a species-wide liability. Beside her, Dr. James Chun, Earth's premier xenosociologist, was frantically taking notes on his tablet. The data he was gathering would reshape humanity's understanding of galactic politics. But right now his face was pale with shock. "They're talking about us like we're a pest species," whispered Commander Sarah Mitchell, the mission's military advisor. Her hand instinctively moved toward her sidearm, a gesture that would have proven every alien stereotype about human aggression. Elena held up a hand for silence. She was listening not just to what was being said, but how it was being said. The casual dismissal, the assumption that human consent was irrelevant to human fate, the complete lack of curiosity about what humans might contribute to galactic civilization. "Captain," Dr. Chen whispered, "their entire assessment is based on conventional metrics. They're not measuring innovation, adaptability, creativity, or collaborative problem-solving. They're judging us as if we were trying to be them." Elena nodded slowly. That was exactly the problem, and potentially their solution. The vote, when it came, was 39-8 in favor of human relocation. The High Arbiter's voice carried across the chamber with the weight of galactic law. The human species is hereby granted 10 standard galactic years to demonstrate sufficient utility to warrant continued occupation of their current territories. Failure to meet established efficiency metrics will result in mandatory relocation to supervised primitive sectors. As the council began to disperse, Elena stood and activated her delegation's communication badge. Her voice, amplified by the chamber's acoustic systems, cut through the alien chatter like a knife. "High Arbiter Veltar, esteemed members of the Thieving Galactic Council," she said, her tone perfectly diplomatic despite the magnitude of what had just occurred. "Humanity accepts your challenge." The chamber fell silent. Dozens of alien eyes, sensors, and psychic probes focused on the small human delegation. "We understand your concerns about efficiency," Elena continued, "and we look forward to demonstrating humanity's value to galactic civilization. We request only that our performance be judged not by your metrics, but by our results." Veltar's energy form flickered with what might have been surprise. "Very well, Captain Rodriguez. You have 10 years to prove that humanity deserves a place among the stars." As the council session officially ended and the alien representatives began filing out, Elena caught the eye of General Vex. The Krell commander paused at his chambers. Exit, his compound eyes focusing on her with predatory interest. 10 years, he clicked in accented standard galactic. "We shall see if your species learns to follow proper guidance, or if guidance must be imposed." Elena met his gaze without flinching. "We're looking forward to the opportunity, General." After the chamber emptied, Elena's delegation sat in the observation alcove, processing what had just occurred. They had come as ambassadors seeking partnership. They were leaving as a species on probation. "Ma'am," Commander Mitchell said quietly, "our orders were to establish diplomatic relations and negotiate trade agreements. They just told us we have a decade to justify our existence." Elena pulled up her communication link to Earth, the Quantum Entanglement Communicator would carry her message instantaneously across the light years to the Sol System. "Earth Command, this is Ambassador Rodriguez," she began. "Mission parameters have changed significantly. We're no longer seeking partnership with the Galactic Council. We're fighting for survival." The response came immediately. "Understood, Ambassador. What do you need?" Elena looked out through the chamber's transparent walls at the vast starfield beyond, where human colonies scattered across dozens of systems were going about their daily lives, unaware that their right to exist had just been called into question. Time, Earth Command, and the will to prove that everything they think they know about humanity is wrong. Captain Rodriguez stood in the cargo hold of the merchant vessel New Shanghai, watching Vorthan traders examine Earth's latest export offerings with barely concealed disdain. The methane breathers had set up their environmental bubbles in one corner of the bay, their tentacles manipulating scanners and assessment tools with fluid precision. "These items are primitive," Coordinator Glex bubbled through his translator. He held up a smartphone, cutting edge by human standards but laughably obsolete compared to galactic technology. "This computational device contains only a single processing core, no quantum entanglement capabilities, No neural interface options. Elena nodded patiently. You're absolutely right, Coordinator. But perhaps you could tell me what it does that your devices cannot. Glex's tentacles writhed in, the Vortham equivalent of a confused frown. I do not understand the question. Why would we desire a device with fewer capabilities? May I? Elena gestured toward the smartphone. When Glex handed it back to her, she activated the camera and held it up toward one of the cargo bay's viewports, where the station's rotation provided a slowly changing view of the stellar backdrop. What do you see? She asked, turning the phone screen toward the Vorthan. Stars, space, the accretion disk of the nearby gas giant. Glex's tone suggested this was too obvious to warrant explanation. Elena smiled and tapped the screen, activating the phone's augmented reality features. Suddenly, the star field was overlaid with information, stellar classifications, distances, trade route efficiency ratings, gravitational field strengths. This device doesn't just show you what's there, Elena explained. It shows you what? It means it takes raw data and contextualizes it for organic consciousness. It's not designed to replace your advanced computers. It's designed to make them more accessible to beings like us. Glex's tentacles stilled, a sign of deep concentration. Among his species, the interface adapts to biological perception limitations? Exactly. Humans excel at making complex systems simple to use. We can take your incredibly sophisticated Vorthan navigation computers and create interfaces that allow other species to operate them intuitively without years of training. For the first time in the conversation, Glex seemed genuinely interested. You would modify our technology to be usable by inferior species? Elena bit back her immediate response. Instead, she said, we would make your technology accessible to species with different capabilities. Think of it as expanding your potential customer base by several billion individuals. While Elena negotiated with the Vorthans, Dr. Chun was conducting his own experiments 3 levels down in the station's Cultural Exchange Center. He had set up what appeared to be a simple human art exhibition, but was actually a carefully designed study in interspecies communication. The centerpiece was a holographic display showing Earth's sunrise as viewed from the International Space Station, a scene that human artists had rendered in dozens of different styles: photorealistic, impressionistic, abstract, expressionistic. The same moment, interpreted through different human perspectives. A young Zephyrian scientist named Kolves hovered before the display, his energy form flickering with what Dr. Chun had learned to recognize as confusion. I do not understand the purpose of these variations, Kolves hummed. The first image is clearly the most accurate representation of the stellar emergence phenomenon. Why create inferior versions? They're not inferior, Dr. Chun explained. They're interpretive. Each one shows how a different human consciousness processes the same experience. This one, he gestured to a wildly abstract piece that rendered the sunrise as flowing geometric patterns, was created by an artist who experiences synesthesia. She literally sees music as colors and shapes. A neurological disorder, Kolves observed clinically. A different way of perceiving reality, Dr. Chun corrected. And sometimes, those different perspectives reveal aspects of reality that standard perception misses. That painting there helped our astronomers identify previously unknown magnetic field patterns in solar emissions. Kolb's S-form brightened with sudden interest. Inefficient perception led to scientific discovery. Diverse perception led to expanded understanding, Dr. Chun said. When you have millions of different consciousnesses looking at the same problem, you're bound to find solutions that wouldn't occur to any single perspective, no matter how advanced. Meanwhile, in the station's engineering section, Commander, Mitchell was having her own revelations. She had been invited to observe a routine maintenance operation on the station's atmospheric processors, massive machines that kept the complex environment suitable for 40 different species respiratory requirements. The Silicon Dynasty technician overseeing the operation was a marvel of efficiency. Its multiple appendages moved with mechanical precision. Its quantum processors calculated optimal maintenance sequences in microseconds, and its diagnostic systems identified problems before they could affect performance. But when a minor malfunction occurred in one of the atmospheric scrubbers, the technician's response was to shut down the entire section and begin a systematic diagnostic protocol that would take 6 hours to complete. "What about a bypass?" Mitchell suggested, pointing to a secondary circulation system that could maintain life support while repairs were made. "Bypass protocols are not part of standard maintenance procedures," the technician replied. "Deviation from established protocols increases probability of cascade failures." Mitchell studied the system for a moment, then activated her own diagnostic tablet, a piece of human technology that the aliens had dismissed as primitive. Her device couldn't match the Silicon Dynasty's computational power, but it could do something this couldn't. It could think creatively. "What if we reroute the primary flow through the emergency backup system for 20 minutes while we hot swap the faulty component?" she suggested. "Your diagnostics could monitor for anomalies in real time, and we could abort if anything looks unstable." The Silicon Dynasty technician's optical sensors focused on her with laser precision. "That procedure does not exist in our maintenance database." "Then let's create it," Mitchell said with a grin. 47 minutes later, the atmospheric scrubber was running at 102% efficiency, better than its original specifications. The Silicon Dynasty technician had recorded every step of the improvised procedure and was already calculating how it could be applied to similar systems throughout their space. "Your species approaches problems without predetermined solution paths," the technician observed. "This introduces variables that our optimization algorithms did not account for." "We call it thinking outside the box," Mitchell replied. "Though I suppose for you, the box is more like a perfectly optimized mathematical framework." "Precisely. We had not considered that optimization might benefit from ... mathematical chaos." 3 decks away, Elena was wrapping up her negotiations. With Coordinator Glex, the Vorthan trader had initially offered humanity basic resource extraction contracts, the kind of simple work typically assigned to primitive species. But after their conversation, he was proposing something entirely different. "Your species could serve as interface specialists," Glex bubbled excitedly. "You could take our advanced systems and make them accessible to less sophisticated civilizations. This would expand our potential market base exponentially." Elena nodded. "And in exchange?" "Full trade partnership status, access to galactic distribution networks, technology sharing agreements." Glex paused, his tentacles moving in complex patterns that Elena had learned indicated deep thought. "Your species may be primitive, but you are ... useful primitives." It wasn't exactly the respect Elena had hoped for, but it was progress. As the human delegation prepared to depart Trade Station Omega-7, Dr. Chun compiled his observations into a comprehensive report that would be transmitted back to Earth. "The galactic civilizations have optimized themselves into intellectual corners," he wrote. "They have become so efficient at being themselves that they've lost the ability to think like anything else. Their strength is also their weakness. They can't see solutions that require abandoning their established paradigms." Elena read the report as their ship entered hyperspace, carrying them toward the next diplomatic mission on her list. "So what's our strategy, James?" Dr. Chun smiled. "We stop trying to prove we're as good as them at being them. Instead, we prove we're essential for being us. Elaborate. Every species in the galaxy has become ultra-specialized. They're like ... perfect instruments designed for specific tasks. But humans are generalists. We're like a Swiss Army knife. In a universe full of precision tools, Elena leaned back in her command chair, watching the stars streak past outside the viewport. A Swiss Army knife isn't as good as a professional tool for any specific job. No, Dr. Chun agreed. But it's the only tool that can do every job adequately. And sometimes, adequate is all you need to survive. Neither of them could have predicted how prophetic those words would prove to be. General. Vex stood on the command bridge of the Dreadnought Conquest's edge, studying the tactical display with predatory satisfaction. The holographic star map showed the steady expansion of Krull space over the past 18 months. 17 new systems claimed, 6 primitive species absorbed into the Empire's labor force, resources flowing back to the core worlds in ever-increasing quantities. But there was an anomaly that irritated him like a grain of sand in a precision mechanism. 3 star systems that should have fallen to Krull forces according to their strategic projections were still holding out. And worse, they were becoming more resistant over time rather than less. Status report on the Kepler resistance, he clicked. To his tactical coordinator, Sub-Commander Vex approached, her mandibles clicking with barely contained frustration. The local species continues to resist integration efforts, General. Their defense capabilities have somehow increased by 300% over the past 6 months. Impossible. Intelligence reports confirm they possessed only primitive kinetic weapons and basic shields. That was accurate at the time, General, but they appear to have acquired new capabilities. Vex's compound eyes focused on the display, showing the Kepler system. The Keplers were a humanoid species with crystalline exoskeletons, beautiful but fragile, with no apparent military prowess. They had been marked for easy absorption into the Empire's workforce, their crystal growing abilities valuable for certain industrial applications. Show me the latest engagement recordings. The holographic display shifted to show footage from the previous week's attempted invasion. Vex watched his forces approach the Kepler homeworld's orbital defenses, a collection of space stations that intelligence had dismissed as obsolete. But as the Krull fleet closed to weapons range, something unexpected happened. The space stations began moving in coordinated patterns that made no tactical sense according to Krull military doctrine. They weren't retreating or forming defensive lines. They were dancing. The first Krull destroyer to enter the battle zone found itself surrounded by 3 stations that had somehow appeared in its blind spots simultaneously. Their weapons were still primitive by Krull standards, but they were being used in ways that Krull tactical computers couldn't predict or counter. Freeze display, Vex commanded. Analysis. How did those stations achieve positioning without detection? Unknown, General. They appear to have used improvisational thrust patterns that our sensors interpreted as system malfunctions rather than intentional maneuvers. Vex's mandibles clicked with growing irritation. Improvisational thrust patterns? They use their atmospheric venting systems, emergency thruster arrays, and even docking clamps as propulsion sources. Separately, each maneuver was inefficient and wasteful. Combined, they achieved positioning that our computer models classified as impossible. The recording continued, showing Krull ships being outmaneuvered by defenders, who were using tactics that violated every principle of space combat efficiency. Worse, the Kepler defenders seemed to be learning from each engagement, developing new improvised strategies faster than Krull tactical computers could develop counters. There, Sub-Commander Vex pointed to a particular section of the recording. Observe the communication patterns between defending vessels. Vex watched as the display highlighted data streams flowing between the Kepler ships. The patterns were chaotic, unpredictable, nothing like the efficient command and control structures the Krall employed. They're not following a unified command structure, Vex explained. Each ship appears to be making independent decisions, yet somehow achieving coordinated results. Impossible. Coordination requires hierarchy and predetermined protocols. That's what our tactical analysis concluded as well, General. But the results speak for themselves. Vex studied the display for several more minutes, his tactical mind wrestling with concepts that violated everything he understood about military organization. Finally, he activated his communication array. Intelligence Division. This is General Vex. I need comprehensive analysis on the following query. What outside influence could transform a primitive species into effective military resistance in less than 2 years? The response came within minutes. General, correlating your query with recent galactic activity, there is one possibility: human involvement. Humans? Vex's mandibles clicked with something that might have been amusement. The species scheduled for relocation? Explain. Sir, humans have been observed in 17 different systems over the past 18 months, ostensibly conducting trade and diplomatic missions. In every case, the species they contacted showed subsequent improvement in technological adaptation and problem-solving capabilities. Providing weapons? Negative, General. They appeared to be providing ... consultation. Vex paused, processing this information. Elaborate. Humans don't appear to be sharing their technology directly. Instead, they observe local problems and suggest solutions using existing local resources. The results are ... unprecedented. The intelligence officer transmitted a series of case studies. In the Vorthan Federation, humans had helped redesign resource distribution networks, increasing efficiency by 40%. In Silicon Dynasty space, human interface designers had created systems that allowed organic species to operate advanced AI networks. In ethereal collective territory, humans had developed meditation techniques that improved hive-mind coordination. They're not upgrading the primitive species, the intelligence officer concluded. They're teaching them to upgrade themselves. Vex stared at the data for a long moment. And now they're teaching the Keplers to resist our expansion. That appears to be the case, General. Where are the humans now? Our sources indicate a human delegation is currently en route to the Altair system. Vex's tactical display immediately shifted to show the Chudi Altair system, 3 inhabited worlds that lay directly in the path of the Krell Empire's planned expansion corridor. If humans help the Altarians develop effective resistance, it could delay Krell expansion by years. Intercept course to Altair system, he commanded. Maximum acceleration. Sir, Sub-Commander Vex interjected carefully. The humans are under Galactic Council protection during their diplomatic missions. Are they? Vex's mandibles curved in what passed for a smile among his species. I don't recall the Council extending protection to unauthorized military advisors. The Dreadnought Conquest's edge altered course, its massive engines accelerating the ship toward a confrontation that would reshape the galaxy's understanding of human capabilities. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood in the central conference room of Diplomatic Station Harmony, surrounded by the 3-dimensional holographic displays that the Altarian architects had designed to accommodate their unique visual perception. Altarians were silicon-based lifeforms who perceived electromagnetic radiation across a much wider spectrum than humans, and their art and architecture reflected this enhanced sensory capability. Ambassador Sylphida, the Altarian representative, gestured with her crystalline appendages as she explained her people's situation. Unlike the humanoid crystals of the Kepler system, Altarians resembled living gemstones, complex geometric forms that refracted light into beautiful patterns as they moved. Our defensive capabilities are limited, Sylphida admitted, her voice chiming like wind through crystal formations. The Krull Empire's expansion reaches our border within 2 standard months. Our industrial capacity cannot match their military production. Elena nodded, studying the tactical displays that showed the Altarian system's defenses. The aliens were right. They had perhaps a dozen orbital platforms and a small fleet of civilian vessels that could be converted for defense. Against a Krail battle group, they would last minutes. "Tell me about your mining operations," Elena said. Sylphida's crystalline form shifted colors, confusion in the Altarian emotional spectrum. "Mining? Captain Rodriguez, we face military extinction. How does resource extraction relate to our survival?" "Doctor." Chun stepped forward, tablet in hand. "Captain Rodriguez has a theory about defensive applications of industrial technology. May we tour your facilities?" 3 hours later, Elena stood in the heart of Altair Prime's main asteroid mining complex, watching massive extraction operations that put human mining to shame. Altarian technology could slice through solid rock with precision beams, separate valuable minerals at the molecular level, and reshape raw materials into desired configurations almost instantly. "This is incredible," Commander Mitchell observed. "Watching a mining beam carve through an asteroid like butter. The precision, the power output. And completely wasted on defense," Elena murmured, her mind racing through possibilities. "Captain?" Dr. Chen prompted. Elena turned to Sylphida. "Ambassador, what would happen if you aimed one of these mining beams at a Krull ship instead of an asteroid?" "The beam would cut through their armor plating," Sylphida chimed slowly. "But these are industrial tools, not weapons. They are not designed for combat applications." "What if we don't think of them as weapons?" Elena suggested. "What if we think of them as extremely precise construction tools?" Over the following days, Elena's team worked with Altarian engineers to develop what they termed defensive construction protocols. Mining beams became precision cutting tools capable of disabling ship systems without destroying the vessels entirely. Asteroid pushers became kinetic interceptors. Ore refineries became ammunition factories producing specialized projectiles designed to interfere with Krail electronics. But the real breakthrough came when Dr. Chun made an observation about Altarian sensory capabilities. "You can see across the entire electromagnetic spectrum," he said to Sylphida as they watched technicians calibrate a modified mining platform. "That includes frequencies that most species can't detect." "Yes," Sylphida confirmed. "We perceive what you would call infrared, ultraviolet, radio waves, even some quantum field fluctuations. Which means you can see things that attacking ships assume are invisible." Elena looked up from the tactical display she was studying. "Elaborate, James." "Stealth systems work by bending or absorbing specific wavelengths of radiation, Doctor," Chun explained excitedly. "But they can't hide across the entire spectrum. That would require too much energy. The Altarians can literally see things that are supposed to be cloaked." Sylphida's crystalline form brightened considerably. "We could detect approaching vessels long before their sensors could locate us." "Not just detect them," Elena said with growing excitement. "You could track their exact positions and relay that information to your defensive platforms in real time. Suddenly, your mining beams become guided precision weapons." As the human-Altarian collaboration continued, word spread through the system that strange modifications were being made to civilian infrastructure. Merchant vessels reported seeing mining platforms in unusual configurations. Deep space monitors detected new electromagnetic signatures around the system's asteroid fields. To casual observation, it looked like the Altarians were simply expanding their mining operations, which was exactly what Elena hoped the Krail would think. General Vex stood on the command bridge of Conquest's Edge, studying sensor readings that showed a typical star system engaged in routine industrial activity. 3 inhabited worlds, approximately 24 orbital stations, modest defensive platforms around the primary population centers. "Scan for human vessels," he commanded. Detecting 1 human diplomatic transport in orbit around Altair Prime, his sensor operator reported. Configuration matches standard Galactic Council diplomatic protocols, and their defensive capabilities? Minimal, General. Orbital platforms show standard civilian-grade shielding and basic kinetic weapons. Industrial activity suggests they are prioritizing resource extraction over military preparation. Vex's mandibles clicked with satisfaction. They're still hoping diplomacy will save them. Sub-Commander Vex approached with the latest intelligence reports. "General, our sources confirm human presence on Altair Prime for the past 6 days. However, no significant military equipment has been observed entering the system." Curious. The humans provided effective assistance to the Keplers. Why are they not repeating that strategy here? Unknown, General. Perhaps the Altarians lack the technological base necessary for rapid military adaptation. Vex studied the tactical display, comparing the Altair system to the Kepler resistance. The Keplers had been more advanced technologically, with existing space-based infrastructure that could be modified for defense. The Altarians appeared to be primarily focused on mining and resource extraction, hardly the foundation for effective military resistance. "Deploy standard conquest formation," he ordered. "Primary targets are the orbital defense platforms. Once those are eliminated, we proceed with planetary subjugation protocols." The Krull fleet moved into the system with mechanical precision. 3 heavy cruisers leading, followed by support vessels and troop transports. Their approach vector was textbook perfect, designed to maximize firepower while minimizing exposure to defensive weapons. 20 minutes into their attack run, the first anomaly occurred. "General," the sensor operator called out, "we're detecting unusual electromagnetic emissions from the asteroid fields." "Specify." "Unknown, sir." "The emissions don't match any known weapon signatures, but they're increasing in intensity." Vex frowned. The asteroids were positioned throughout the system, typical for a mining operation, but potentially problematic if they concealed defensive installations. "Deploy reconnaissance drones. I want detailed scans of every asteroid larger than 50 meters." The drones launched and began their sweep, but before they could complete their mission, the Altarian defensive platforms began firing. Vex watched with predatory satisfaction as primitive kinetic rounds streaked toward his ships. The projectiles were easily intercepted by point defense systems, confirming his assessment of Altarian weakness. But then something unprecedented happened. "General," the tactical officer called out in alarm. "The enemy has achieved weapons lock on all primary vessels simultaneously. Impossible. Our stealth systems are..." "Sir, they're tracking us across 17 different electromagnetic frequencies. Their targeting computers are receiving data from sources we can't identify." The first mining beam struck Conquest's Edge precisely at the junction between the primary sensor array and the main hull. The beam didn't explode like a conventional weapon. It simply cut, slicing through armor plating like a blade through. "Tissue. Damage report. Forward sensors offline. Navigation array severed. They've surgically removed our primary detection capability." More beams lanced out from positions throughout the asteroid field, not the random defensive fire Vex had expected, but precise, coordinated strikes that targeted specific ship systems. One by one, Krull vessels found their weapons offline, their sensors blinded, their maneuvering systems disabled. How are they achieving such precision? Vex demanded. Unknown, General. The beams are being fired from civilian mining platforms, but they're receiving targeting data from everywhere, the asteroids, the space stations, even the planets themselves seem to be acting as a sensor network. Vex stared at the tactical display in growing comprehension. The Altarians weren't fighting like a military force. They were operating like a mining consortium that happened to be using their tools defensively. But somehow, their industrial coordination was proving more effective than Krull military. Doctrine, Sir, Sub-Commander Vex reported grimly, the entire fleet is disabled. No casualties, but we're unable to maneuver or return fire. They're not trying to destroy us, Vex realized aloud. They single quotes disabling us for salvage. As if to confirm his assessment, Altarian construction vessels began approaching the immobilized Krull fleet. But instead of delivering finishing blows, they deployed what appeared to be industrial analysis beams. General, the communications officer reported, we're receiving a transmission from the Altarian leadership. Sylphida's crystalline form appeared on the main screen, her geometric features shifting through colors that Vex's translator identified as diplomatic formality mixed with firm resolve. General Vex of the Krull Empire, she chimed, your fleet has been safely disabled to prevent unnecessary casualties. We invite you to discuss terms for your departure from Altarian space. Vex's mandibles clicked with barely controlled rage. You dare offer terms to the Krull Empire? We offer practical solutions to mutual problems, Sylphida replied calmly. Your vessels require repairs. We possess the industrial capacity to provide them. In exchange, we request formal recognition of Altarian sovereignty and a non-aggression pact. And if we refuse, then you'll remain here until you reconsider. Our mining beams are quite capable of providing life support maintenance indefinitely, though I suspect your crews would prefer to return home. As the implications sank in, Vex realized he was facing something unprecedented in Krull military history. Complete tactical defeat without a single casualty. His ships were intact but helpless, his crews were unharmed but trapped, and his enemy was offering negotiations instead of demanding surrender. It was, by Krull standards, completely incomprehensible. I need to speak with the humans, Vex said. Finally, Captain Elena Rodriguez materialized on the main screen beside Sylphida, her expression carefully neutral. General Vex, Captain Rodriguez, I assume you are responsible for this tactical innovation. Ambassador Sylphida and her people are responsible, General. We simply help them recognize the military applications of their existing capabilities. Vex studied the human captain, noting her calm demeanor despite having just orchestrated the defeat of a superior military force. Your species continues to surprise us, Captain. Our species excels at finding unexpected solutions to complex problems. Elena replied, which brings me to a proposal that might interest you. Speak. The Krull Empire's expansion strategy relies on rapid conquest and resource extraction. But you're encountering increased resistance as you move into sectors where species have had time to adapt. This slows your expansion and increases your operational costs. Vex's tactical mind immediately grasped the implications. Continue. What if, instead of conquering systems, you formed strategic partnerships with them? The Altarians have industrial capabilities that could benefit the Krull Empire significantly. Their mining technology is more efficient than anything in your fleet. Partnership implies equality, Vex observed. The Krull do not partner with inferior species. Then perhaps it's time to reconsider what makes a species inferior, Elena suggested. The Altarians just disabled your entire fleet using mining equipment. That suggests capabilities you might want to utilize rather than suppress. For the next 6 hours, Elena orchestrated negotiations that redefined the relationship between the Creole Empire and its expansion targets. Instead of conquest and subjugation, she proposed a model of mutual benefit, Krull military protection in exchange for specialized resources and technology. By the end of the session, General Vex found himself signing a treaty that granted the Altarians full autonomy in exchange for exclusive mining technology licenses to the Krull Empire. As his fleet departed Altarian space with full repairs and upgraded sensor arrays, courtesy of Altarian engineering, Vex sent a priority communication to Krull High Command. Command, this is General Vex. I am submitting a formal recommendation for strategic policy revision regarding human involvement in our expansion operations. Specify, General. The humans are not primitive military advisors. They are strategic force multipliers. Any species they assist becomes exponentially more capable of both resistance and cooperation. Your recommendation? Vex paused, considering his words carefully. We should explore the possibility of human consultation for our own operations. The silence from High Command stretched for several minutes before the response came. Explain. If humans can transform mining platforms into precision weapons and turn defensive operations into negotiation advantages, imagine what they could do with proper military resources. High Arbiter Veltar S energy form flickered with patterns that the assembled delegates had learned to recognize as barely contained amazement. The quarterly efficiency reports displayed throughout the chamber showed statistics that violated every prediction their economists had made. In the 12 months since our last assessment of human activities, Veltar announced galactic productivity has increased by 43%. Interspecies conflicts have decreased by 67%, and resource utilization efficiency has improved across all measured sectors. Dr. Kixenall materialized beside him, her form substantially brighter than during their previous human assessment. The correlation is undeniable, she reported. Every system that has engaged in significant human consultation shows marked improvement in multiple operational categories. General Vex, now a regular participant in council sessions, clicked his mandibles approvingly. The Krull Empire's expansion rate has tripled since adopting human-recommended partnership protocols. Our resource acquisition costs have dropped by 58%, and resistance to Krull presence has virtually disappeared. Coordinator Thresh of the Vorthan Federation gestured with multiple tentacles, activating displays that showed trade route efficiency improvements. Human interface specialists have revolutionized our ability to work with non-Vorthan species. Our trade network now includes 37 species that were previously considered incompatible with our systems. The Silicon Dynasty representative added its synthetic voice to the testimonials. Human creative consultation has led to breakthrough optimizations in 17 different categories of technological development. Our processing efficiency has improved by factors we had not considered mathematically possible. But perhaps the most dramatic testimony came from the Ethereal Collective's representative cloud, which pulsed with harmonics that translated as profound satisfaction. The humans have taught us something we thought impossible, the collective consciousness announced. They have shown us how to think thoughts we have never thought before. Their introduction of controlled chaos into our decision-making processes has led to solutions that our perfect logic could never have achieved. As the testimonials continued, Veltar found himself recalibrating everything he thought he understood about galactic civilization. The humans hadn't just proven their usefulness. They had transformed the fundamental dynamics of how species interacted. "There is another matter," Dr. Kixenel announced, her voice carrying a note of scientific excitement that made the entire chamber focus on her. "Our analysis indicates that human influence is creating something unprecedented in galactic history." She activated a galaxy-wide display that showed the complex web of relationships, trade routes, and cooperative agreements that had emerged over the past year. "For the first time since the establishment of the Galactic Council," she explained, "we are seeing genuine interspecies collaboration rather than simple coexistence. Species are not merely trading resources or maintaining territorial boundaries. They are actively working together to solve shared problems." The display zoomed in on specific examples. Krull military engineers working alongside Altarian miners to develop new extraction techniques. Vorthan traders collaborating with Silicon Dynasty manufacturers to create products that no single species could produce alone. Ethereal collective psychics partnering with human psychologists to develop new forms of therapy for traumatized populations. "The humans have not simply integrated into galactic civilization," Veltar observed with growing wonder. "They have transformed it into something it has never been before." Captain Elena Rodriguez, now holding the official title of Human Ambassador to the Galactic Council, stepped forward to address the assembly. "Honored delegates," she began, "humanity accepts your revised assessment of our galactic utility, but we would like to propose an even more ambitious collaboration." The chamber fell silent with anticipation. "Rather than continuing to address galactic challenges on a case-by-case basis," Elena continued, "we propose the establishment of the Galactic Cooperative Initiative, a formal organization dedicated to developing innovative solutions to shared problems." She activated her own holographic display, showing a structure that would overlay the existing council with a new network of cooperative working groups. Each group would combine representatives from multiple species, focusing on specific challenge areas: resource optimization, conflict resolution, technological integration, cultural exchange, and exploration of unknown regions. The implications were staggering. Instead of 47 separate species maintaining careful boundaries and limited interactions, Elena was proposing a galaxy-wide collaborative network that would treat diversity as a resource to be utilized rather than a problem to be managed. "The preliminary models," Dr. Chan added, stepping forward with his own data displays, "suggest that such cooperation could increase galactic civilization's overall capabilities by orders of magnitude. We're not just talking about incremental improvements. We're talking about fundamental advances in what galactic civilization can achieve." The debate that followed was unlike any in Council history. Instead of species arguing for their individual interests, they found themselves discussing how to maximize collective potential. The Zephyrians proposed contributing their energy manipulation expertise to power systems that could benefit all species. The Krail offered their military organizational skills for exploration and security operations. The Vorthans volunteered their resource management capabilities for galactic-scale logistics. The Silicon Dynasty suggested sharing their computational power for complex problem-solving initiatives. When the vote came, it was unanimous, 47-0 in favor of establishing the Galactic Cooperative Initiative, with humanity serving as primary coordinators. As the session concluded, Veltar approached Elena with something that might have been admiration. "Ambassador Rodriguez," he said, "when we first assessed your species, we concluded that humans were too primitive and inefficient to contribute meaningfully to galactic civilization." "And now?" Elena asked. "Now we realize that we were measuring efficiency by the wrong metrics." "You haven't become more like us. You've taught us to become more like ourselves, but better," Elena smiled. "High Arbiter, that might be the most human compliment we've ever received." Admiral Elena Rodriguez, her promotion reflecting humanity's new status within galactic hierarchy, stood in the Central Command Center of New Geneva Station, watching real-time displays that showed cooperative operations across the galaxy. In the Andromeda approach, a joint Krull-Altarian human exploration fleet was making first contact with a previously unknown species of crystalline gas dwellers. Instead of the traditional Council protocol of careful assessment and gradual integration, the fleet was using human-developed rapid, cultural exchange techniques that had reduced first contact timelines from decades to months. In the core worlds, Vorthon Silicon Dynasty manufacturing cooperatives were producing technologies that neither species could have created alone: quantum computers with organic interfaces, living ships that could adapt to any environment, communication systems that translated not just language, but thought patterns between radically different forms of consciousness. Near the galactic rim, ethereal collective psychics were working with human therapists to heal psychological damage left by centuries of species isolation, teaching civilizations that had forgotten how to trust anyone unlike themselves. Status report, Elena requested from her command staff. All cooperative initiatives are performing above projected parameters, reported Dr. Chun, now Director of Galactic Integration Studies. The Tau Ceti Research Group has made breakthrough discoveries in faster-than-light communication. The Proxima Centauri terraforming project is ahead of schedule by 2 years. The Betelgeuse Cultural Exchange Program has successfully integrated 7 previously incompatible species. Commander Mitchell, now Admiral Mitchell and head of Cooperative Security Operations, added her own report. Galactic conflict incidents are down 91% from pre-cooperative levels. The few disputes that do arise are being resolved through mediation rather than military action. Elena nodded, then turned to the newest member of her staff, General X, who had requested transfer from the Krull Empire to serve as military coordination specialist for the cooperative. General, what's the status of our expansion into unknown space? X's mandibles clicked with what Elena had learned to recognize as satisfaction. The exploration fleets are making remarkable progress, Admiral. By combining Krell military organization, human adaptability, Altarian industrial capability, and Vorthon resource management, we're able to establish peaceful contact with new species 3 times faster than any previous galactic expansion. And our latest discovery? The Omega Centauri region appears to contain a spacefaring civilization that predates any known galactic species by approximately 50 million years. They've agreed to formal contact next month. Elena felt a familiar thrill of anticipation. First contact with truly ancient aliens would present challenges that would require every innovation humanity had brought to galactic civilization. Recommendations for the contact team composition? I suggest a human-led team with representatives from all major cooperative groups, Vex replied. If these ancients are as advanced as we suspect, we'll need our most creative problem solvers. As Elena reviewed the preparation reports, she reflected on the journey that had brought humanity from galactic outcasts to the coordinators of the largest cooperative civilization in known history. The transformation hadn't happened through conquest or technological supremacy. It had happened because humans had a unique ability to see potential where others saw problems, to find connections where others saw barriers, to imagine cooperation where others assumed competition. Admiral, Dr. Chen said quietly, approaching with a datapad that showed the latest galactic assessment reports. I think you should see this. Elena reviewed the statistics with growing amazement. Galactic productivity was now 400% higher than pre-human levels. Interspecies conflict had virtually disappeared. Technological advancement rates had increased exponentially. New species were requesting to join the Cooperative faster than integration protocols could be developed, but perhaps most remarkably, the galaxy's total civilizational capacity, measured in terms of exploration range, scientific advancement, cultural development, and overall quality of life, had increased by over 1,000%. We didn't take over the galaxy, Elena realized aloud. We taught the galaxy how to take over itself. And now? Dr. Chun asked. Elena looked out through the station's central viewport at the vast star field beyond, where exploration fleets were, pushing into unknown regions, where new cooperative projects were solving problems that had challenged galactic civilization for millennia, where species that had spent eons in isolation were learning to work together toward common goals. Now we do what humans do best, she said with a smile. We figure out what's next. The Galactic Council chamber had been transformed into something that would have been unrecognizable to the beings who had once debated humanity's fate within its walls. Where once 47 species had sat in careful isolation, now hundreds of representatives worked in integrated groups, their diverse forms of consciousness contributing to a collective intelligence that surpassed anything the galaxy had ever known. High Arbiter Veltar, his energy form now stabilized in patterns that reflected his role as coordinator of traditional wisdom, stood before an assembly that included not just the original council species, but 43 new civilizations that had been contacted and integrated through cooperative protocols. 10 standard years ago, he announced, this council declared humanity too primitive and inefficient to merit continued occupation of their territories. Today, we gather to celebrate the anniversary of what historians are calling the Great Awakening, the moment when galactic civilization discovered its true potential. The testimonials that followed painted a picture of transformation that bordered on the miraculous. Species that had been enemies for millennia were now partners in exploration and development. Technologies that had been impossible for any single species to achieve were now routine products of cooperative innovation. Problems that had seemed intractable for centuries were being solved in months through the application of diverse perspectives, working in harmony. But perhaps most importantly, Veltar continued, we have learned that the concept of primitive versus advanced was itself a primitive way of thinking. Each species brings unique capabilities to our collective endeavor. What we once saw as limitations, we now recognize as specialized strengths. Captain Rodriguez, now Fleet Admiral Rodriguez, commanding the galaxy's exploration and first contact operations, took the podium to address the assembly. When we first came before this council, she began, humanity was seeking acceptance into galactic civilization. We wanted to prove that we deserved a place among the stars. She paused, looking out at the assembled representatives, beings of energy and crystal, living metal and organized plasma, biological forms that defied easy categorization, and artificial intelligences that had achieved consciousness through paths no organic mind could follow. What we discovered was that the galaxy didn't need another species trying to be like everyone else. It needed species that were unapologetically themselves, contributing their unique perspectives to challenges that required every possible approach. She activated a holographic display that showed the current extent of cooperative space, a network of civilizations that now span not just their original galaxy, but had begun making contact with neighboring galaxies through advanced exploration. Techniques that no single species could have developed. Today, I'm pleased to announce our next major initiative, the Transgalactic Cooperative Project. We've made successful contact with 3 separate galactic civilizations, and they've all expressed interest in learning about our cooperative model. The implications were staggering. If the cooperative model could be extended beyond a single galaxy, if the principles of diversity-driven innovation could be applied on a universal scale, there was no limit to what might be achieved. As the assembly erupted into excited discussion. Elena found herself approached by an unexpected visitor, Dr. Kixenel, the Zephyrian scientist who had originally delivered humanity's damning assessment. "Admiral Rodriguez," Dr. Kixenel said, her energy form pulsing with what Elena had learned to recognize as scientific excitement mixed with humility. "I owe your species an apology." "For what, Doctor?" "For nearly making the greatest mistake in galactic history. If the Council had proceeded with human relocation 10 years ago, we would have deprived ourselves of the catalyst that transformed galactic civilization." Elena smiled. "Dr. Kixenel, humanity's greatest strength has always been learning from mistakes and moving forward. What matters isn't that you initially misunderstood us. It's that you were willing to revise your assessment when new evidence became available." "And now?" the Zephyrian scientist asked. "What does the future hold for the species that was once considered useless?" Elena looked out at the vast star field visible through the chamber's transparent walls, where cooperative fleets were pushing the boundaries of known space, where new civilizations were being contacted and integrated through protocols that treated diversity as a strength rather than a challenge, where problems that had seemed impossible were being solved through the combined genius of hundreds of different forms of consciousness working in harmony. "Now we do what we've always done, Doctor. We prove that impossible is just another word for something that hasn't been figured out yet." As the assembly continued its celebrations, Elena felt a deep sense of satisfaction. Humanity had achieved something unprecedented in galactic history. They had taken over an entire civilization not through conquest or domination, but by teaching that civilization to be better than it had ever imagined possible. They had won the galaxy by showing it how to win itself, and in the vast darkness beyond, where new galaxies waited to be contacted and new civilizations sought solutions to challenges that would require every possible perspective, the greatest adventure was just beginning. Hey there, incredible humans. If this epic journey from galactic outcasts to universal coordinators didn't give you chills, I don't know what will. This story proves something absolutely incredible about our species. We don't need to be the strongest, the smartest, or the most advanced to change everything. We just need to be uniquely, unapologetically human. Think about it. Every weakness the aliens identified in us turned out to be a hidden superpower. Our chaos became creativity. Our inefficiency became adaptability. Our emotional decision-making became the key to cooperation. We didn't conquer the galaxy. We taught it to conquer itself through the power of working together. I want to know what moment in this story hit you the hardest. Was it when the humans turned mining equipment into precision weapons? When General Lex realized he'd been defeated by primitive tactics? Or when the entire galaxy voted unanimously to let humans coordinate their civilization? Drop a comment and let me know which scene gave you the biggest adrenaline rush. And absolutely demolish that like button if you believe that humanity's secret weapon isn't our technology or our strength. It's our ability to see potential where others see problems and to turn diversity into our greatest advantage. I've got another mind-blowing story lined up that explores what happens when humans encounter a species that's already perfect and accidentally teach them that perfection might not be as great as they thought. Trust me, you won't want to miss how we manage to improve on evolution itself. Click the card here or check out the whole playlist for more stories about why the universe consistently underestimates the species that refuses to know its limits. Until next time, remember, you're not primitive, you're just operating on principles that advanced civilizations haven't figured out yet. And that makes you absolutely unstoppable. See you in the next one, Galaxy Changers.